Iran's response, Trump sought to set sober expectations.
The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war.
He has started a war, and it has eerie similarities to the way Iraq began.
Massachusetts Congressman Seth Moulton served 4 tours in Iraq. He is among the Democrats who have criticized Trump for not seeking congressional approval before attacking Iran.
You have to obey the Constitution, and that means going before Congress and asking Congress to decide, is it worth putting young American lives on the line with great risk to achieve these goals?
Democrats plan to force a vote on a bipartisan bill that would require President Trump to seek congressional authorization to use military force in Iran, but it would likely fail with near unanimous Republican opposition. And even if it did pass, Trump could veto it. As for this hour tonight, President Trump continues to closely monitor the situation from Florida alongside members of his national security team. He also attended a GOP fundraiser tonight at his Florida resort. His press secretary says the Republican Party is, quote, more important than ever. Tony.
All right, Weisha, thank you very much. Chief Washington analyst Robert Costa spoke with President Trump by phone this evening, and he joins us now. Robert, good evening. What did the president tell you?
Good to be with you, Tony. When I spoke to President Trump just before he went to that GOP fundraiser by phone, he expressed great confidence in the military strikes so far. He notably said he's monitoring the situation, and he's somewhat surprised that the retaliatory response from Iran has been less than expected by the United States and its allies, though, of course, it's a fluid situation. And I asked him, Tony, what's next? What are you trying to look for here? Is a diplomatic solution possible in this crisis? And he said, yes, he believes the strikes could bring Iran closer to a diplomatic solution that he believes is right for the region, right for the United States, because they're, quote, getting beat up so badly. I said, in the wake of the killing of the Ayatollah, who's in charge of Iran now? He says he has been briefed about all of the leadership shakeups inside Iran. He would not say who exactly he believes is running the country right now, but he says, I know exactly who is. I just won't tell you. There are some good candidates, he says, who could lead Iran in the weeks moving forward should discussions pick up. And I also asked him, I said, what about Congress? We've seen some of the Democratic response. We just spoke to the congressman from Massachusetts, and he said, look, I'm always willing to work with Congress, but on this front, in so many fronts, Tony, he is willing to use his executive power, as he told me, to take out what he perceives to be threats to the United States.
All right, Bob, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I want to broaden our conversation now and bring in Congressman Rick Crawford, an Army veteran from a military family now representing Arkansas's 1st District. He's also chair of the House Intelligence Committee, making him a member of the so-called Gang of Eight. That's a group of congressional leaders brought in on high-level classified briefings from the executive branch. Representative Crawford, thank you again for joining us. Because you are a member of the Gang of Eight, you are one of the few Americans who had advance notice of this strike this morning. What can you tell us about why now, why the timing was right, and what the goals are?
Well, I think there are 3 goals to be addressed here. We've heard a lot of analysts talk about it. One is the nuclear capability that they continue to engage in. The other is their ballistic missile production and deployment. And the third one was the regime change piece that is we're seeing, these organic uprisings in Iran. And we're seeing the regime had killed upwards of 30,000 of their own people as a result. So there were some compelling reasons here, but I would argue that, the notion of starting a war with Iran, I don't think that people realize we've been at war with Iran since 1979. So President Trump is not starting a war, he's finishing one.
One of the questions Democrats have raised is whether the president should have gone to Congress for approval. Now, Congress, of course, hasn't declared war formally since World War II. But there is the question of whether this is really a preemptive strike or merely a preventative one. Was there an imminent threat from Iran?
I'm not sure that there's much of a difference between a preventive or a preemptive strike in this context. I think what we're seeing here was there was a sufficient threat and a 47-year history that we had reached a point at which we are not going to take anymore. And I think President Trump recognized that this was an opportunity that the timing was perfect and it was surgically precise. and the conditions on the ground are such that the Iranian people needed assistance so they can affect their own self-determination and really take matters into their own hands. Now, regime change is a byproduct of that. I welcome it, quite frankly, and if you've seen the footage from around the world, not only in Iran, but in the diaspora communities here in the United States and elsewhere in the world, they welcome that change as well.
What's next, Congressman, to the best of our knowledge?
Well, you had some really good analysis in the previous segment with the Admiral and Elliot Ackerman. I think laid out a pretty extensive analysis of what we can expect. You'll continue to see airstrikes, and it'll be very precise, targeting areas of things like the southern portion, what they call the southern ballistic missile belt there in the southern region of Iran, the production so that we can pretty much curtail their magazine depth. It's going to take a little bit of patience because most of those ballistic missile sites are mobile. So it will take a little bit of time, but the president has indicated that. But what we see are the conditions on the ground are ripe for organic regime change. And, we pray for the Iranian people to be able to organize and engage in self-determination.
Congressman, it's been pointed out that this is the largest buildup of U.S. forces in the Middle East since the start of the Iraq War in 2003. For many Americans, they wake up today and they wonder, is this a here we go again moment? To those people, including, I'm sure, some of your own voters and voters for President Trump, what do you say to calm the nerves?
Well, I think we have to take a look back at the history here with this particular country. And myself, I actually was part of an engagement that involved Iran back in the 80s. And then there was, since 1983, the attack on the Marine barracks in Lebanon. And, of course, go back to 1979, when they took American hostages from the embassy in Tehran. There's just a laundry list of abuses of the United States and our allies and the engagement and funding of terrorism for 47 years. And I would liken this moment in history to almost equal to bringing down the Berlin Wall. The job's not finished yet, but that is the historic arc that we're seeing play out in front of us here, in that we're doing something that is actually beneficial to the entire world, particularly the Gulf region there. And I think that our allies recognize that. I think Iran made some really strategic mistakes by attacking their neighbors in the region, unprovoked attacks against Qatar, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. That was not a good move, and it basically cemented the relationship with the United States.
Congressman, this is not the first time that President Trump has used military action against Iran. While technically diplomacy was still afoot, other times he has done so as well. And it raises the question, I heard it posed today, I'll pose it to you. Is America now a country where instead of the military being a last resort, the military is more like a first resort?
I think the president has engaged in an earnest diplomatic outreach to Iran when other countries didn't, and when other regimes didn't. For example, the Obama administration didn't engage directly with Iran. This was, the JCPOA was engaged, through intermediaries, and we saw the result of that. This is the president doing what he said he would do. He wants to make peace, and in fact, we've seen him make peace with other engagements around the world. This is no different. He makes the offer to go to the table with the Iranians, and you and I weren't in the room, but what I did hear from folks who were in the room was a complete level of belligerence and arrogance that they absolutely refused to even consider those three key points that we've made tonight with regard to what those negotiations would entail. So that's an intractable position. And, all the goodwill in the world on the part of Donald Trump may not have been enough. They simply were not serious about engaging in a diplomatic solution.
All right. Congressman Rick Crawford of Arkansas's 1st District. Thank you very much, Congressman.
You bet. Thank you.
Next, the big questions right now. How long does this continue? How wide does it go? And what happens when it all ends? We'll take a look at the big picture and the political upheaval in the Middle East.
Go to the ends of the earth.
We'll hit the heights.
A great adventure together.
And reach for the stars.
Star power. I like it.
So cool.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking.
Something that's undeniable.
With mindfulness.
Innovative.
Magical.
It's like being a child.
And truly original reporting.
God, you do your research. I tell a good story.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
The 18-year-old soccer sensation igniting worldwide buzz.
How good is this kid?
The defenders are just bewitched.
Lamine Yamal.
You ever talk to the soccer ball?
I'm Major Garrett in Washington, inviting you to the Takeout. Politics, policy, people, and pop culture served up weeknights. What's on the menu? Plenty. The day's happenings with curiosity, informality, and humor. It's serious discussion, but we do not take ourselves too seriously. Who was a better speaker, Mike Johnson or you?
Oh, come on.
Join me on the Takeout. Streaming right here on CBS News 24/7.
You both had talked about going on Survivor together.
Right.
A Survivor contestant believes his sister was murdered.
I'm sorry that I couldn't protect you.
And is determined to be her voice.
This is her speaking to everyone, saying, don't let this happen to you.
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount+.
Chilling with the queen, her name is Gail King.
Hey!
CBS.
CBS Morning.
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 CBS Mornings on CBS and where else? Paramount Plus. See you at 7.
CBS. CBS Mornings.
I want a mug. Yeah, good mug.
A stalker sends menacing messages to a young mother before she's murdered.
They all just kind of said, I can't believe this happened. He did it. The stalker did it.
There's a killer out there, and we're gonna go after him.
But the investigation reveals a sinister setup.
I think his head is spinning, thinking about what else are they gonna find.
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount+.
Money Watch is your no-nonsense guide to taking control of your finances, where I offer practical, real-world advice with no jargon and no judgment. I'm Jill Schlesinger. Listen to Money Watch wherever you get your podcasts.
It could be the greatest turnaround in college football history.
What is the magic here?
The undefeated Big Ten champs, Indiana Hoosiers.
CBS Morning.
CBS Mornings on CBS and where else? Paramount Plus. See you at 7.
CBS Mornings.
We are back with a CBS News live special, War with Iran, and we start with side-by-side satellite imagery. You can see the before and after versions showcasing the catastrophic damage at the Ayatollah's compound in Tehran. You can see that after the strikes, the buildings are decimated. There's debris everywhere, smoke rising from the ashes. With the U.S. and Israel launching this war with Iran, this could be one of the most consequential days for the Middle East in generations. To put it all into context, let's bring in analyst and author Douglas Murray, plus Chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett. Major, wait right there. I'm going to start with Douglas here on set. There's reporting from the Wall Street Journal tonight that Israel has managed to hack a popular Iranian prayer app, and it is sending messages telling members of the Revolutionary Guard to leave and liberate the country. What do you make of that?
First of all, it's a tactic that the Israelis have used elsewhere. They've used it in Gaza. They've used it against Hezbollah in Lebanon. So it's a familiar tactic. The message itself is simply reiterating what President Trump said in his late night message, which is to request that the Revolutionary Guards, the Basij and others put down their weapons. And in Trump's language, he said last night, now is the time to do that. Otherwise, there's another route further down the road.
So let's talk about the otherwise. What are the implications in the days, weeks, or longer ahead for America, Iran, the world?
Well, the first thing is, of course, you mentioned at the beginning how historic this is. Since 1979, the Iranian Revolutionary Government has, first of all, been repressing, of course, the Iranian people. It's been colonizing the entire region. It's been colonizing Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen. And of course, it's been the world's foremost sponsor of terror. So the fact that that regime seems to have been certainly decapitated and seems now to be tottering, means, first of all, that we will very likely see a very different Middle East. But there's a secondary thing, which is, of course, and President Trump did refer to this a bit in his remarks, perhaps not enough in my view, was that don't forget that the terrorism that this regime has been spreading has not been limited to the Middle East. The regime spread terror to South America. It's tried to carry out assassinations here in New York of dissidents. It tried only a couple of years ago to kill a former American Secretary of State and a former National Security Advisor in Washington, D.C. So the fact that that foremost sponsor of terror is now seemingly on its last legs is something that's going to have huge implications way beyond the Middle East.
All of what you said has been true, though, for a while now. So why right now? Was it just the moment presented itself?
It seems to me that the moment presented itself. I mean, if you consider the difference between what's happened in the last 24 hours and what happened last summer it was very clear that in the 12-day war, that decapitation of the regime, specifically the targeting of the Ayatollah, was not on the table. That seemed to be the one thing that was absolutely not on the table. Taking out the nuclear sites was the main objective then, but not regime decapitation. Something has changed in the last year. Possibly it's simply President Trump's realization of the intractable nature of the Iranian revolutionary government in negotiations. They have strung on negotiating team after negotiating team from the West, from the international community for decades on every one of these issues.
Douglas, thank you very much. Major Garrett, I want to bring you into this conversation. The president likes to describe himself as the president of peace. He ran a campaign of no more wars in the Middle East. And then from the perspective here of someone in his own coalition, this looks like a new war. What do you make of it?
Yes, but there are times, Tony, when we make the observation that President Trump is so different than all of his predecessors and operates differently and doesn't necessarily adhere to the conventions of the presidency as conducted by presidents before him. In this one respect, there is a constant. To pick up on the point just made, since 1979, every American president has to one extent or another been frustrated, bedeviled, deterred, and in some cases haunted by the Islamic regime in Iran and its use of terror cell networks and proxies, not just in the Middle East, Europe, South America, even Asia. Every American president has had to deal with this. Carter, Reagan, Bush 1, and Clinton all dealt with not only the Iranian Revolution in 1979, but its expansion of use of terror throughout the region. And then it became a much bigger problem after 9/11, the global war on terror, then its nuclear ambitions. That was Bush 2, that was Trump, Obama, Trump again. Biden, all of them have been dealing with this. So that's one constant thread through the American presidency from 1979 to now. And it's at that point that I believe President Trump is saying not only is the time now, but Iran and its regime and its proxies have never been weaker. So when they are weak, it's time to strike. Not that they present this particularly malevolent new threat, but it may be time now to deal with that long-running threat from a position of, if not maximum advantage, near maximum advantage.
But, Major, we have midterm elections coming up. The president does need to have a coalition in Congress. This is difficult for them to explain to people. The polling is not in favor of a unilateral strike without approval from Congress. How does this play?
Well, let's go right to our polling data, Tony, on that very point. Our polling unit talked to Americans before the President's State of the Union address, asked one question. Has the Trump administration clearly explained the U.S. position on military action against Iran? 72% told us the answer to that question was no. Only 28% believed the administration had clearly explained what was about to happen or what it was contemplating. Now let's go after the State of the Union address. We asked some other questions. How should the United States approach Iran's current leadership? Let's go to the lowest rated answer, 18%. Remove them from power with force. Then next, 22%. Do not get involved, 22%. Pressure them with sanctions, 38%. Negotiate with them through diplomacy. We also asked, does Trump need approval from Congress for military action? 74%, Tony, said, yes, he does. That's clearly not happening. One last question. U.S. military action against Iran to stop them from making a nuclear weapon. How did that come out? 51% would favor, 49% would oppose, very closely divided on those central questions. Tony?
All right, Major, thank you very much. Douglas, while I have you here, I think of Rick Crawford, the congressman, his first district there in Arkansas, the people sitting there tonight and all over the country asking themselves, what does this have to do with my life? How does it make my interest better?
Well, a huge amount is simply going to depend on the success or otherwise of this operation. If you look at the polling data from the operation in Venezuela the other week, the initial response among floating voters was pretty negative about it. Once it turned out that, an extraordinary operation, highly successful, Maduro seized and brought to New York, those numbers of approval went up hugely. But there's a caveat to that, and any Republican you speak to and anyone in the administration you speak to, as you know, knows this, which is none of these issues are actually midterm issues. It's the economy, it's cost of living that are midterm issues. But nevertheless, as was just mentioned, this issue of the Iranian revolutionary government is something that, as several people this hour have said, has bedeviled not just the Middle East, but America for 47 years now. We have been strung along in the West on nuclear issues, on terrorism issues, and much more. All of this time, clearly there was a moment that was seen that could be seized. Donald Trump seized it, and if it's successful, I'll imagine that this success will have an awful lot of people claiming a bit of it.
Douglas Murray, thank you very much. Major Garrett, thank you as well to you. Ahead, the risks here at home, cities across the U.S. on high alert, the concerns of what could happen next. Our coverage of the war with Iran continues after a quick break.
Money Watch is your no-nonsense guide to taking control of your finances, where I offer practical, real-world advice with no jargon and no judgment. I'm Jill Schlesinger. Listen to Money Watch wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Major Garrett in Washington, inviting you to the takeout. Politics, policy, people, and pop culture served up weeknights. What's on the menu? Plenty. The day's happenings with curiosity, informality, and humor. It's serious discussion, but we do not take ourselves too seriously. Who is a better speaker, Mike Johnson or you?
Oh, come on.
Join me on the takeout. Streaming right here on CBS News 24/7.
Go to the ends of the earth.
A great adventure together.
Come on in. And reach for the stars.
We'll hit the heights.
Bingo.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
Welcome back to a CBS News live special, War with Iran, and with the Islamic Republic tonight promising a ferocious response to strikes by the U.S. and Israel. Let's turn back now to the homeland and concerns here over whether Iran has so-called sleeper cells preparing to retaliate. CBS correspondent Jerika Duncan has been looking into security precautions here at home.
Tonight, federal law enforcement officials are warning of a heightened security threat in the U.S. following those deadly strikes in Iran. Security has been increased in dozens of cities across the country. Hundreds today marched near the White House. And during this protest in New York City, drones and helicopters monitored the scene from above as demonstrators called for an end to the strikes.
It's not the United States' responsibility to conduct regime change abroad. If we want to really focus on human rights and regime change, we should focus on it here.
We spoke with NYPD Counterterrorism Deputy Commissioner Rebecca Weiner. Every day, she meets with more than a dozen intelligence officers from around the world.
Because of the international partners that you work with, I wonder if you had any heads up that this was happening, or did you learn like everyone else this morning?
I think we've all been reading the tea leaves over the last several weeks about what could transpire, and that gave us opportunity to make sure that we're leaning into all of our partners, all of our intelligence resources.
Does the threat level increase now that we know the supreme leader has been killed?
The threat level increases whenever there's a conflict like what's happening in the broader Middle East, regardless of a leader being killed or not. Our response is to focus on New York City and what the risk is to our city.
What would you tell folks who are nervous, who are genuinely concerned about the safety of not only New Yorkers, but this country?
We deploy all these resources so that New Yorkers can go about their days knowing that we have the resources, we have the partnerships, and we have the intelligence in play to keep our city safe.
And when it comes to those reported sleeper cells, Deputy Commissioner Weiner would not go as far as to say they are tracking them, but she did say they are leaning into any tips and any leads. Tony?
Jericka, thank you very much, and we'll be back with you in a moment on another topic, so stick right there. Meantime, a more in-depth look at threats here in the homeland. I want to bring in CBS News national security contributor Samantha Vinograd. She served as former Assistant Secretary for Counterterrorism at the Department of Homeland Security. Sam, thank you very much for joining us. So the Department of Homeland Security is saying it's unlikely that large-scale physical attacks will happen here in the U.S. However, they say Iran could launch more targeted physical attacks, smaller scale, and that cyber attacks are possible. What are we looking at?
Well, what we're looking at is the fact that for the past several decades, the Iranian regime has seriously invested in surrogate networks in the United States and around the world. Those surrogate networks have been successful in trying to launch assassination attempts against government officials, dissidents, members of the Jewish community, and others. And so for that reason, in my experience, Tony, the federal, state, and local government officials at any given time have a serious amount of ongoing investigations into Iranian-backed criminal and counterterrorism-related threats. Certainly, after the assassination of the Supreme Leader and the ongoing kinetic conflict in the Middle East, the ability for the regime to try to tap into those surrogate networks to try to retaliate for what's happening is even higher. And that's why we are seeing really unprecedented cooperation between all levels of government and probably the private sector to try to share information, increase intelligence gathering, intelligence analysis, and to deter attacks by putting out more physical patrols, more visible law enforcement, and other matters.
Sam, how credible, how imminent are the potential attacks, the threats against the Jewish community, the U.S. government officials, the U.S. military community? What do you know at this hour?
What I can say is the Iranians have come pretty close in the past. And really, I've worked closely with the NYPD and others. We have a really incredible law enforcement intelligence community in this country. But the Iranian regime is quite sophisticated and good at what it does. I am not a huge fan of saying there's no credible or imminent threat, because that can change very, very quickly for something to go to non-credible and to become imminent. Instead, I think it's important that members of the public remain on heightened alert, that if you see something, say something. And when it comes to cyber hygiene, when it comes to emails and links and files that you're getting right now, that everybody stay on high alert to the environment around them while all of this is ongoing.
All right, Sam Vinograd, thank you very much. Another concern on Americans' minds is the potential economic impact this strike will have on oil and gas prices here at home. I want to go back to Jericka, as promised. Thank you very much for sticking around. What's going to happen to oil and gas prices?
Yeah, so we've been looking into this, and essentially, you know that the oil is traded on a global market. Because oil trades on that market, any disruption to the supply can spike oil prices worldwide. Now, the bigger concern may be access to the Strait of Hormuz, a key area used to carry roughly 20% of the world's oil. How these oil markets react will depend on how long this conflict lasts. Bottom line, Tony, if crude oil jumps significantly, drivers in the U.S. could see prices go up within a matter of days.
We'll be monitoring it closely. Jericka, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Coming up, cheering in the streets in Iran, we're going to speak with an Iranian dissident living in exile here in the U.S. who has been dreaming of this moment for years. You're watching CBS News.
Go to the ends of the earth.
We'll hit the heights.
A great adventure together.
And reach for the stars.
Star power. I like it.
So cool.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking.
Something that's undeniable.
With mindfulness. Innovative.
Magical.
It's like being a child.
And truly original reporting.
God, you do your research.
I tell a good story.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
Do you believe this case could be solved?
Yes, I do.
what is your emergency?
I accidentally shot my wife.
Do you think it was accidental? I guess that's the million-dollar question.
It's not a violent crash.
No.
Whoa.
There's our connection. Lady down.
I knew this was going to happen.
Did this look like an accident or something else?
Something entirely different.
I never would have guessed how this ended.
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Watch now.
Here we go.
The ultimate tradition continues.
60 Minutes is here right now.
America's #1 news program is a free streaming channel. It's time for 60 Minutes everywhere you watch.
I'm Major Garrett in Washington, inviting you to the takeout. Politics, policy, people, and pop culture served up weeknights. What's on the menu? Plenty. The day's happenings with curiosity and formality and humor. It's serious discussion, but we do not take ourselves too seriously. Who is a better speaker, Mike Johnson or you?
Oh, come on.
Join me on the takeout. Streaming right here on CBS News 24/7.
It was almost like being face-to-face with the devil.
48 Hours reports.
I fought and fought.
911, what is your emergency?
She disappeared off the face of the earth.
Stream 48 Hours 24/7.
Money Watch is your no-nonsense guide to taking control of your finances, where I offer practical, real-world advice with no jargon and no judgment. I'm Jill Schlesinger. Listen to Money Watch wherever you get your podcasts.
You both had talked about going on Survivor together.
Right.
A Survivor contestant believes his sister was murdered
I'm sorry that I couldn't protect you.
and is determined to be her voice.
This is her speaking to everyone saying, don't let this happen to you.
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount Plus.
It could be the greatest turnaround in college football history.
What is the magic here?
The undefeated Big Ten champs, Indiana Hoosiers.
Go behind the scenes of one of TV's most watched true crime series with the 48 Hours Postmortem podcast. Follow and listen to 48 Hours wherever you get your podcasts.
You are watching a CBS News live special, War with Iran, and we bring you live pictures of mourners already lining up for the funeral of their supreme leader, which will take place on Sunday in Iran. These are pictures from Iranian state television. While there are people mourning, there are also plenty of Iranians celebrating at this hour. And with us now is CBS News contributor and Iranian-American journalist Masih Alinejad, who has survived not one, not two, but 3 plots by Iran's regime to kill or kidnap her. Masih, thank you very much for being here. It sounds like you've lost your voice a little bit. Is that related to today's events?
I have been singing, shouting, screaming, celebrating with my people inside Iran. I was talking to mothers. Ibrahim Kitabdar's mothers, Peshman's mothers, Puya's mother. These are the mothers that they lost their children. And I hear their voices that they are celebrating the killing of the murderers, Ali Khamenei. So that's why I lost my voice. But don't worry, when I need it to come back to me.
I see the celebrations. I can sense the joy in the streets. Is there apprehension about what comes next?
You know, of course, people are worried. But this is the time that my people, Iranians, they are experiencing pain and hope. Because I'm talking about the regime that massacred more than 40,000 people. But in the street, people are just screaming out of joy because they believe this is going to be the beginning of a future that we don't have killers in power, a future that people can have a normal life. You know, for many of Americans watching me, maybe this is about a country miles away from America. They say that this is the story of people that we don't maybe know them. But for me, this is my life story. I was put in prison when I was only 19 years old. I was pregnant. This is the regime. Think about it. They have stolen my life. They have stolen my family, my country, everything.
Are you hearing talk of anyone in particular who might be able, from Iranian civil society, to step forward, not part of the regime, not part of the revolution, on a whole nother track, and be the leader that I think people like yourself are looking for in Iran?
this regime cannot be reformed. So definitely we're not looking, oh my God, I lost my voice.
It's understandable.
We're not looking for anyone from this regime. And people in the street, they're naming Prince Pahlavi. And he says that he believes in fair and free election. I believe that we deserve to have a transition from this government to this regime to a secular democracy. I'm not a political leader, but I believe that Iranian can have a government by voting, having fair and free election. So that's why I'm calling on Europeans. This is the Berlin Wall moment to meet with the opposition, to think about an Iran without the Islamic Republic. Because this is a regime sending killers in the region, in America, in Europe, everywhere. So there is only one solution to end the war, endless war, to end the root cause of the war, which is the Islamic Republic.
But in the Berlin Wall moment, the wall came down and the Guard stood down. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard is not standing down. What happens next?
I think because they don't see strong signal. As soon as they see signal from the European leaders all over the world, Arab leaders, where are they? If there is think about it, a political coalition in Iran and outside Iran, like the Europeans, Americans, leaders from Arab countries, if they get all united, having a plan, a strategic plan to see an Iran without Islamic Republic, that will send a signal to the Revolution Guards members to put their guns down. I think we need to see this signal.
10:54 here in the East. How do you think future generations will look back at this moment?
Oh my God, I can't talk. I lost my voice. You have to bring me back tomorrow. I need some hot water.
All right, let's get the ladies some hot water. Masih Alinejad, thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it.
I will invite you to my beautiful country. I want to hug my family. It has been 15 years. That's why I get really upset when I see some anti-war Americans taking to the streets, my fellow citizens, take to the street to celebrate the killing of a terrorist. Because this is not about politics. This is all about normal life, having dignity for Iranians. We share the same values. You want these terrorists? Don't feel sorry for terrorists. Feel sorry for my people inside Iran. The new generation, they deserve to have democracy. It breaks my heart when I see Americans in the streets. They chant, I am Hamas. Hamas is killing Iranians, killing people in Gaza. If you care about free Palestine, help us to free Palestine from Islamic Republic. I want to talk to Americans, but I will be back tomorrow.
All right, Masih Alinejad, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back.
Chilling with the queen, her name is Gail King.
Hey!
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning. CBS Morning.
CBS Mornings on CBS and where else? Paramount. See you at 7.
CBS Mornings.
I want a mug. Yeah, good mug.
I'm Major Garrett in Washington, inviting you to the takeout. Politics, policy, people, and pop culture served up weeknights. What's on the menu? Plenty. The day's happenings with curiosity, informality, and humor. It's serious discussion, but we do not take ourselves too seriously. Who is a better speaker, Mike Johnson or you?
Oh, come on.
Join me on the takeout. Streaming right here on CBS News 24/7.
Money Watch is your no-nonsense guide to taking control of your finances, where I offer practical, real-world advice with no jargon and no judgment. I'm Jill Schlesinger. Listen to Money Watch wherever you get your podcasts.
One thing is very clear.
CBS Mornings is clearly fun.
Watching Rocky with Rocky.
Good morning, good vibes.
Gail came in singing for me today. CBS Mornings.
Weekdays at 7.
See you there.
Did you surrender? Did Donald Trump run you out of town?
Marjorie Taylor Greene returns to 60 Minutes after falling out with President Trump.
Politics isn't a game. When do consumers actually get to touch and feel a difference in their lives? Politics is about policy. So you would encourage Democrats to work with Donald Trump on an issue like health care? I'm a voracious consumer of information, and I'm impatient. I don't like to be spun. Do you know if there are active terror cells in the United States right now? To be moderator of Face the Nation means bringing the most powerful stakeholders to the table to become better informed.
With her sister's murder long unsolved,
the months went by, the years went by, and then the decades went by.
Well, that's when I became a warrior.
A woman turns to TikTok pleading for leads.
Somebody knows something, and somebody knows who killed Molly Bish.
Can you help? 48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount+.
Welcome back to a CBS News primetime special, War with Iran. We are nearly 24 hours now into a whole new world, and none of us knows exactly where this is headed. But here's where we are. In a surprise attack this morning, the United States and Israel launched a massive aerial assault on Iran, decapitating its leadership and, in perhaps the most notable development of all, killing that country's supreme leader. For more than 45 years, Iran has been an iron-fisted theocracy, ruled by leaders who turned a country where women worked and dressed as they pleased into a religious dictatorship that crushed dissent and killed thousands of its own people in just the past couple of months alone. Even as Iran retaliates tonight, that era of repression may be over. There are no reports of American casualties at this hour from Iranian airstrikes. There are, however, celebrations in the streets of Tehran. President Trump told the Iranian people, take control of your government. That, quote, the hour of their freedom is at hand. We'll be watching out for it, and we shall see. For now, our coverage will continue on your local news and tomorrow on Face the Nation. I'm Tony DeCopel. Thank you for joining us tonight. Good night for now.
Money Watch is your no-nonsense guide to taking control of your finances, where I offer practical, real-world advice with no jargon and no judgment. I'm Jill Schlesinger. Listen to Money Watch wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Major Garrett in Washington, inviting you to the takeout. Politics, policy, people, and pop culture served up weeknights. What's on the menu? Plenty. The day's happenings with curiosity, informality, and humor. It's serious discussion, but we do not take ourselves too seriously. Who is a better speaker, Mike Johnson or you?
Oh, come on.
Join me on the takeout. Streaming right here on CBS News 24/7.
Go to the ends of the earth.
A great adventure together.
Come on in. And reach for the stars.
We'll hit the heights.
Bingo.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
We knew there was a monster out there and we were going to find him and get him.
Police!
When did this accident scene become a crime scene?
What makes you so sure that you stabbed your sister while you were sleepwalking?
I'm gonna ask you a direct question. Did you try to poison your wife?
I'm Natalie Morales with 48 Hours. Did you have anything to do with Joanna Hunter's death?
This is a family that just wants justice.
Chilling with the queen, her name is Gail King.
Hey!
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning.
CBS Morning. CBS Morning.
CBS Mornings on CBS and where else? Paramount. See you at 7.
CBS.
CBS Mornings.
I want a mug. Yeah, good mug.
A teenage girl goes missing.
Her phone had died at 4:35 a.m. at Warnemont Park.
Will evidence in a secluded area
I make my way down to the beach. I stop cold.
reveal what happened?
That's when I knew we had a homicide.
No weapon, no suspect. Where do we go from here?
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount Plus.
Sunday morning, the vaccine that conquered polio, plus Seymour Hersh, a reporter's reporter, and Oscar-nominated actor Rose Byrne. Listen for the trumpet.
I want to know what's going on in the world. You can't do that if you're just sitting in a chair, reading about what other people have found. You have to get out there and listen. By telling people about each other, you actually bring this country together. There are big questions that all of us are asking. I want to get you the answers. I'm Tony DeCopel. Join me on the CBS Evening News.
Good morning and welcome to Face the Nation. As we come on the air, the conflict in the Middle East appears to be widening, with the U.S. and Israel in their second day of attacks against Iran, and Iran has escalated their retaliatory strikes aimed at U.S. interests in neighboring countries, as well as targets inside Israel. The bombing kicked off early Saturday morning. The only public appearance from President Trump at this point was a video released soon after the strikes began. It included this chilling warning.
The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission.
And that prophecy has now come true, as U.S. Central Command just released a statement announcing the first known American casualties of Operation Epic Fury. 3 service members are dead and 5 are seriously wounded. We'll cover all angles of this ongoing conflict that has enormous international implications for the U.S. We'll start with our Charlie D'Agata in Tel Aviv.
Iran began 40 days of mourning for Ayatollah Ali Khamenei after state-run media confirmed that he was killed at his Tehran compound. His successor has been announced as Alireza Arafi to lead a temporary council, but who's really in charge and where they can even meet safely is another matter. Israel Defense Forces released this video today, claiming to show multiple airstrikes blowing up Iranian government headquarters this morning. CBS News cannot independently verify that claim. Intelligence sources tell CBS News as many as 40 senior Iranian officials were killed in the first wave of strikes. Iran's Islamic Republican Guard Corps vowed revenge, saying they've launched the most ferocious offensive operation in the history of the Iranian armed forces towards the occupied territories and American terrorist bases. On day 2 of the war, nearby Gulf state allies have already borne the brunt of multiple drone and missile strikes, though none as hard as Israel itself. An Iranian missile strike overnight in the heart of Tel Aviv left a woman in her 40s dead and more than 40 injured, including 7 children.
Throughout the night, air raid sirens and text messages sent residents here scrambling for their bomb shelters. This missile managed to get through one of the most advanced missile defense systems in the world, and that's what's causing concern among U.S. forces here.
U.S. military officials tell CBS News that forces from U.S. Central Command continue to launch airstrikes and cruise missiles against Iran, targeting Iranian air defenses, launchers and missile stockpiles, and Iranian regime infrastructure in coordination with Israeli defense forces.
Today, the U.S. Embassy here in Israel changed its advisory to American citizens here, saying the embassy is not in a position to evacuate or directly assist Americans in departing Israel, directing that all U.S. government employees and their family members shelter in place in or near their residences until further notice.
That's our Charlie D'Agata in Tel Aviv. We turn now to senior foreign correspondent Imtiaz Tayyib, who's reporting from Muscat, Oman.
Oh my God. Tehran's decision to bring its fight to the doorsteps of Gulf nations will likely only harden Arab rulers' backing for the ongoing U.S. and Israeli strikes. For 2 days now, waves of Iranian attacks have rattled the UAE's swankiest Dubai resorts. Has seen smoke billow across the skyline of Qatar's glittering capital, Doha. While targets have been struck in Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and now Oman's Manama port. Beyond the damage, dozens have been injured and some killed across the region, after Iran fired hundreds of its drones and missiles. While most have been intercepted and no Gulf nation has fired back, the question now is, for how long? The oil and gas-rich region is also home to several major U.S. military bases, housing tens of thousands of American service members. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has said his country's armed forces will, quote, crush U.S. bases with force. Fears of an extended conflict beyond Iran's borders are only growing, following the killing of the supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Pro-regime demonstrators in neighboring Pakistan tried to storm the U.S. consulate in the port city of Karachi. At least 9 people were killed in confrontations with security forces. Protests have also erupted in Iraq. Hundreds were pushed back with water cannons outside the Green Zone in Baghdad, just a short distance from the American embassy.
And from here in the Omani capital, Muscat, not far from the banks of the Strait of Hormuz, CBS News can confirm that 2 tankers have been targeted in strikes. With 1/5 of the world's oil passing through here, any sustained disruption would be felt not just in the Gulf, Margaret, but in markets across the U.S. and around the world.
Imtiaz Tayyib reporting from Muscat, Oman. We turn now to the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Arkansas Republican Tom Cotton, who joins us from Bentonville. Good morning to you, Senator.
Good morning, Margaret.
The President of the United States warned the American public that there could be casualties, American casualties. Does that mean the U.S. is putting boots on the ground?
No, Margaret. The President has been clear that what we should expect to see is an extended air and naval campaign that's designed not only to continue to set back Iran's nuclear ambitions, but most importantly, to destroy its vast missile arsenal. Many more missiles than the United States and Israel have air defenses combined, as well as the missile launchers and its missile manufacturing capability. Now, obviously, one risk of that kind of campaign is that an aircraft could be shot down and the President would never leave a pilot behind. So no doubt we have combat search and rescue assets in the region that are prepared to go in and extract any downed pilot. But barring that kind of unusual circumstance, Margaret, the President has no plan for any kind of large-scale ground force inside of Iran.
The New York Times is reporting that it was the CIA that provided the intelligence in regard to the exact location of the supreme leader, and then he was subsequently killed. You're smiling as I say that. Are you confirming that it is true that it is the United States that pinpointed his location leading to his death?
No, Margaret, I can't confirm anything about the intelligence that the United States intelligence community collects. I can tell you that, of course, we have exquisite intelligence collection methods, that the location and the intentions of the supreme leader and the other Ayatollahs in Iran, or for that matter, the leaders of other adversaries around the world, is obviously one of the highest priorities of our intelligence community. But clearly, this operation is driven by intelligence collected by Israel and the United States that has once again proven that our nations have capabilities that no other nation on earth has.
Indeed, there are questions, though, about what happens next. Secretary of State Marco Rubio testified to Congress last month and was asked specifically what happens if Iran's regime fails. Take a listen.
So I don't think anyone can give you a simple answer as to what happens next in Iran if the supreme leader and the regime were to fall, other than the hope that there would be some ability to have somebody within their systems that you could work towards a similar transition.
That was a month ago. We're seeing some succession planning happening inside Iran. Is this a managed regime change here, or is the United States betting on regime collapse?
Well, Margaret, first I want to stress what happens next in the days ahead and probably the weeks ahead. Iran does have a vast missile arsenal, and that's going to be the priority objective for this military campaign. It is destroying that arsenal that threatened American troops from bases as far-flung as the Indian Ocean to Western Europe, and making
Many
sure
of those
that
are being
Iran can't
fired
rebuild
right
it.
now.
As far as the future, well, we're stopping a lot of them from being fired before Iran can fire them. It's much easier to kill the archer on the ground than it is to shoot his arrows out of the sky. As far as the long-term future of Iran's government, Secretary Rubio is right. I don't think anyone can give you a simple answer. There's probably a lot of jockeying inside of Iran right now. They have a very consultative, deliberative process to replace the supreme leader. There's a reason why he didn't want to have a clear succession plan in place. It's hard to do that when the United States is pummeling their leadership every moment of the day. I'm sure, though, that there are also some leaders inside of Iran who might be jockeying to audition for the role of Iran's Delcy Rodriguez.
Okay, but what you just described in terms of Delcy Rodriguez sounds like it is a managed transition, not regime change. Is that accurate?
Margaret, again, as Secretary Rubio said, it's not a simple answer.
Right, but we're in the middle of it now, so don't you need an answer?
Capabilities,
or at least an outcome, a goal.
But we're going to continue to hit their military capabilities, and we're going to continue to hit their senior leadership. The Ayatollahs who have also been complicit in 47 years of heinous crimes, not only against Americans, but against their own people. Again, there's no simple answer for what's going to come next, but as President Trump promised last month when the Iranian people were rising up against their own regime, help is on the way, help has arrived.
Well, exactly. You're talking about what comes next, but then you're also telling me you don't know what comes next. So do you believe that regime change is possible from air support alone? Has a leader of the opposition been identified? Is the opposition unified to deliver in a way that President Trump is calling on the people to do? Are we arming anyone to actually challenge the regime?
Well, Margaret, the opposition is 90 million Iranians who have suffered under the brutal Islamic Republic revolutionary regime for the last 47 years.
Yes, and the president called them to take over their government.
And we would all celebrate if the Iranian people were able to rise up and reclaim their freedom and reclaim their destiny. And as the president said, when he promised help is on the way, help has arrived. And that's why you've already seen some protests out celebrating the death of the supreme leader, the man who has brutally repressed his own people for almost 40 years. Now, we can't necessarily dictate what course that is going to take, but the help that the president promised is on the scene, and it's going to continue to be on the scene for probably a few weeks as we make sure that Iran's military is no longer capable of threatening our own troops, our Arab friends in the region, and Israel, and also repressing its own people.
This is a big gamble by the president. Before the strikes, according to CBS polling, 74% of Americans said that Trump would need approval from Congress for military action against Iran. He did not seek that. If this operation takes weeks, which is how you described it, do you believe the administration has effectively made its case to the American public to expect casualties, to support this action?
Well, Margaret, I thought the president's 8-minute video yesterday was outstanding. It laid out Iran's 47-year campaign of terror and revolutionary violence against the United States and our people, and really the civilized world. I'm sure the president will speak more in the coming days.
47 years. He did not describe imminence or justify that in that video. Do you believe that the American public is owed something more than a Twitter video?
Well, Margaret, I think an 8-minute address to the American people, whether the president posted on social media or whether it happens on your network, is in keeping with presidential custom of addressing the American people. Again, I'm sure that he's going to be speaking more in coming days. The administration will be briefing Congress, and we're going to have a vote in the Congress. The Democrats are forcing a vote. I expect there'll be overwhelming Republican support for our troops, and for the president's decision to finally eliminate the threat of Iran. And I would invite Democrats in the Congress to join their Democratic colleagues like John Fetterman and Josh Gottheimer and Greg Landsman in supporting our troops in finally putting America's foot down against the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Senator Cotton, we appreciate you in your role in oversight of the Intelligence Committee making the case for the administration. We have more questions and we would love to put them to the administration as well. Thank you very much for your time this morning. Face the Nation will be back in 1 minute. Stay with us.
Money Watch is your no-nonsense guide to taking control of your finances, where I offer practical, real-world advice with no jargon and no judgment. I'm Jill Schlesinger. Listen to Money Watch wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Major Garrett in Washington, inviting you to the Takeout. Politics, policy, people, and pop culture served up weeknights. What's on the menu? Plenty. The day's happenings with curiosity, informality, and humor. It's serious discussion, but we do not take ourselves too seriously. Who is a better speaker, Mike Johnson or you? Oh, come on. Join me on the Takeout. Streaming right here on CBS News 24/7.
Go to the ends of the earth.
A great adventure together.
Come on in. And reach for the stars.
We'll hit the heights.
Bingo.
Because
joining us now is Connecticut Democratic Senator Chris Murphy. Good morning.
Good morning.
You have called for Congress to return to Washington and to vote on whether to try to essentially halt this military action. No war powers resolution has ever overcome a presidential veto. Why do you think you need to take one?
Well, nobody in this country is asking for war with Iran, just like months ago, no one in this country was asking for war with Venezuela. This president is intentionally tanking our economy. He's the most corrupt president in the history of our nation, and Americans want him to focus on the crises here at home. Instead, he is busy getting us involved in quagmires overseas that already are becoming deadly to American soldiers. This is a disaster. It is illegal. And the president is obligated under the Constitution to come to Congress and ask for an authorization of military force. He wouldn't get that authorization if he asked for it. Congress wouldn't vote to give him the permission to do it, but he's obligated to come to Congress.
The administration would argue Venezuela was a limited military operation. They're not explaining to the public yet, beyond that Twitter video, exactly what the plan is here. But the president has tweeted in a way describing this as an open-ended conflict until peace is achieved. You're using the term war. You do consider this to be a war.
Oh, of course. We're engaged in regular, ongoing military strikes that has already killed American soldiers with the goal of regime change. If that is not war, what is? Mm-hmm. Now, the president has said that the goal is regime change, and the goal is to eliminate Iran's missile program and their nuclear program. He is not going to succeed in either of those endeavors. His intelligence agencies have already told him that the most likely outcome is that hardline members of the IRGC replace the current leadership. So we're not going to get a democracy. We're going to get an even worse Iranian leadership. We already know that you can't bomb their nuclear program out of existence. He told us last year that he'd obliterated the program. And then apparently over the course of the last year, they had gotten back to within a week. So we're going to have Americans dying. And the end result is going to be hardline leadership continues in Iran and we don't get rid of their nuclear program. That's a moral and strategic disaster for the country.
Well, you're summarizing the administration's views in perhaps a more succinct way than they have, because we haven't even heard a clear public accounting of the state of their nuclear program. Rubio said they weren't enriching. Witkoff said something else. But I want to ask you about something in regard to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, where you sit. The State Department has issued a worldwide caution alert to all Americans. They have set up a task force that they say they're going to try to figure out how to help the Americans who are trapped in the Middle East and throughout the world. But the U.S. Embassy in Israel said they're closed and they can't help evacuate. If you're an American abroad or a family member, what should you be doing right now?
Well, I think you can call your member of Congress or your senator. We will do whatever we can to help. But it's no secret that this administration has no plan for the chaos that is unfolding right now in the Middle East. Those scenes that you showed at the beginning of the program are frightening. Violence is not contained just to the Middle East. It's spilling over into Pakistan and other parts of the world. And it's no secret that our allies in the region, with the exception of the right-wing government in Israel, had begged us not to take this action because they knew that the spillover, which is now looking like regional conflict, was the likely outcome. So again, what are we getting out of this? We're not getting regime change to a democracy. We're not going to eliminate their nuclear program. We are going to have regional war breaking out. It won't be the billionaire kids of Donald Trump and his buddies that die. It's going to be the children of middle class and poor families all across this country who are going to die for a war of choice, a war of vanity, an illegal war.
Well, we are going to hope for more briefings to Congress or engagement with the press to explain some of these things. When we are talking about the Americans, though, around the world right now, there's also, from the FBI and Homeland Security, concern about cyber vulnerabilities and potential threats to infrastructure. They've put out alerts about this. Given the current situation, Republicans are calling on Democrats to consider stopping the position you've taken, which is to halt some funding to Homeland Security. Do you feel you need to reconsider this position?
So the Republicans are saying that because they launched an illegal, disastrous war in Iran, we should give them permission to continue using ICE to murder American citizens, to allow them to get the funding to tear gas schools. No, we need to stand up for the American citizens that ICE is murdering, the kids that they are terrorizing. They should stop this illegal war, and they should stop ICE from terrorizing our communities. We should demand that they do both things.
Well, the administration would say they have adjusted some of the way they're carrying out policies within DHS.
They have not. They have not. I mean, just because some of the world's and the nation's attention has turned away from Minneapolis, that doesn't mean that they aren't still brutalizing American citizens. We just discovered last week that they had left a Burmese immigrant for dead 5 miles from his home, blind and disabled. This brutality is continuing in the country. We can do two things at once. We can demand that ICE stop murdering American citizens, and we can demand that the administration not send our kids to die for a war that we don't need.
So you believe that with the current funding Homeland Security has, that they are able to protect the homeland in an adequate fashion? That's what I hear you saying.
Listen, I believe that the administration should make a commitment to legally prosecuting the laws of this nation. I don't have any obligation to fund a Department of Homeland Security that is violating the law every day, just like I don't have any obligation to support this war that is illegal as well.
So 3 weeks and counting. It sounds like the standoff is not ending.
Well, if they agree to start adhering to the law at the Department of Homeland Security, they'll have the votes immediately. But listen, this is what the people want. The people want ICE to start behaving legally, and they don't want wars overseas. So I think this is a pretty clear case of Democrats standing with the American people when it comes to domestic crises and international crises.
So back on Iran, if there had been a briefing, if there had been full disclosure of the state of negotiations or an assessment of Iran's nuclear program, would Democrats have been persuadable to support military action? I ask that because the Biden administration initially had reached out to Iran to try to get to a negotiated deal, and they weren't able to get one, in part because they weren't willing to lift sanctions off of the IRGC. So, in other words, are we just in a place where military conflict or confrontation was inevitable, and it just happened to land on Donald Trump's watch?
No, Donald Trump precipitated this crisis, right? He inherited a nuclear agreement that was working, that had put Iran more than a year away from a nuclear weapon. The JCPOA. Against the advice of his advisors, he tossed that agreement out, which brought us to this moment.
It would have expired by now.
But I think Iran would have certainly been willing to extend those provisions if we were still in the agreement. But second, there is no history, there is no experience that shows an air campaign alone will result in positive regime change. In fact, there's not a single example of it in the entirety of American history. An air campaign without at least the threat of a ground invasion, which the administration is ruling out, never results in a democratic rebirth in an authoritarian country. So the plan they have laid out, sustained airstrikes without a ground invasion, is destined to fail. All that will happen at the end of this, most likely, listen, I'm rooting for democracy in Iran, but the most likely outcome here is that hardliners take over the government, they restart their missile program, they restart their nuclear program, and we're just right back at bombing them again and putting American lives and regional lives at risk again in a year or two.
All right. Senator Murphy, thank you for your time this morning.
Appreciate it.
And we'll be right back with a lot more Face the Nation. Stay with us.
A stalker sends menacing messages to a young mother before she's murdered.
They all just kind of said, I can't believe this happened. He did it.
The stalker did it.
There's a killer out there, and we're going to go after him.
But the investigation reveals a sinister setup.
I think his head is spinning, thinking about what else are they going to find.
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount+.
Why America's last best place is at risk.
If the public land that you use were sold off, could you run your business?
Go to the ends of the earth.
We'll hit the heights.
A great adventure together.
And reach for the stars.
Star power. I like it.
So cool.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking.
Something that's undeniable.
With mindfulness.
Innovative.
Magical.
It's like being a child.
And truly original reporting.
God, you do your research.
I tell a good story.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
You both had talked about going on Survivor together.
Right.
A Survivor contestant believes his sister was murdered.
I'm sorry that I couldn't protect you.
And is determined to be her voice.
This is her speaking to everyone saying, don't let this happen to you.
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount+.
It could be the greatest turnaround in college football history.
What is the magic here?
The undefeated Big Ten champs, Indiana Hoosiers.
A teenage girl goes missing.
Her phone had died at 4:35 a.m. at Warnemont Park.
Will evidence in a secluded area
I make my way down to the beach. I stop cold.
reveal what happened?
That's when I knew we had a homicide.
No weapon, no suspect. Where do we go from here?
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount+.
And welcome back to Face the Nation. We'll be joined shortly by Republican Mike Turner, who sits on the House Armed Services Committee. And ahead, we'll be speaking to Senator Ted Cruz. We've been having some audio problems with him, but we are hoping that we can get him up and live from Texas soon, so stay with us.
A stalker sends menacing messages to a young mother before she's murdered.
They all just kind of said, I can't believe this happened. He did it.
The stalker did it.
There's a killer out there, and we're going to go after him.
But the investigation reveals a sinister setup.
I think his head is spinning, thinking about what else are they going to find.
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount+.
Why America's last best place is at risk.
If the public land that you use were sold off, could you run your business?
Go to the ends of the earth.
We'll hit the heights.
A great adventure together.
And reach for the stars.
Star power. I like it.
So cool.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking.
Something that's undeniable.
With mindfulness.
Innovative.
Magical.
It's like being a child.
And truly original reporting.
God, you do your research.
I tell a good story.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
You both had talked about going on Survivor together.
Right.
A Survivor contestant believes his sister was murdered.
I'm sorry that I couldn't protect you.
And is determined to be her voice.
This is her speaking to everyone saying, don't let this happen to you.
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount+.
It could be the greatest turnaround in college football history.
What is the magic here?
The undefeated Big Ten champs, Indiana Hoosiers.
Her
body was found
right here. Yep.
A girl's murder in the small town of Wahoo, Nebraska goes unsolved for decades.
What happened after more than 50 years in this case?
Finally got a full puzzle with all the pieces in place.
How it led to an arrest. 48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount.
Money Watch is your no-nonsense guide to taking control of your finances, where I offer practical, real-world advice with no jargon and no judgment. I'm Jill Schlesinger. Listen to Money Watch wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Major Garrett in Washington, inviting you to the takeout. Politics, policy, people, and pop culture served up weeknights. What's on the menu? Plenty. The day's happenings with curiosity and formality and humor. It's serious discussion, but we do not take ourselves too seriously. Who is a better speaker, Mike Johnson or you? Oh, come on. Join me on the takeout. Streaming right here on CBS News 24/7.
Go to the ends of the earth.
A great adventure together.
Come on in. And reach for the stars.
We'll hit the heights.
Bingo.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
I still can't believe my daughter was murdered. Who would want to hurt her?
2 months from the last time that I told my daughter I loved her.
A mother goes viral on TikTok.
I will never stop seeing my daughter's pain.
Demanding accountability for her murdered daughter.
And
We're joined now by Ohio Republican Congressman Mike Turner. Congressman, you were on the Armed Services Committee. I know you've been in contact with the administration to understand what is going on. The ranking Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, Mark Warner, was briefed by Secretary Rubio, and he is calling this, Warner is a war of choice. He said there was no evidence of imminent harm to Americans or an imminent threat to our country. Were you informed of a specific and imminent threat to the United States?
Well, this issue of imminent is really this fallacy of that comes from the Obama administration's nuclear weapons, nuclear enrichment negotiations, where the Obama administration and the JCPOA set up this fallacy that we were just going to set up, cameras and watch Iran do this nuclear enrichment until they got all the way to a nuclear weapon, and then they were going to kick to the next administration whether or not there was going to be a military conflict, which is what we've come down to.
Detailed international accord with stages. There were parts at sunset.
But this concept of imminent, I mean, as we just saw from the
that's
international,
separate and apart from imminent threat to justify U.S. military
No, but it's
force.
not, because it goes to really this inherent policy that we see that has a thread that's come through the Democrat side that we still see from the Democratic Obama administration's policies of what is imminent. Imminent here really is that the Iranian regime continues to be a sponsor of terrorism and an amassing of missiles and inventory where they have declared themselves an enemy of the United States and of our allies, where they've committed themselves to nuclear enrichment and refused to declare themselves as not pursuing a nuclear weapon. And
they said they weren't.
Well, actually, they have not. As we have seen, even just last year, we had the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency saying that they were just mere months away from being able to have several nuclear warheads. So this imminent issue is one where people want to have them be with their hand almost on the button to something that has been completely assembled. In this instance, the administration has declared that they had information and imminent aspect of that Iran was a threat both to us and to Israel, our ally, and had the opportunity to take an action to eliminate that threat. That's important. We don't have to wait.
Which threat, though?
We don't
because
have
the president
to wait.
said the nuclear threat was obliterated, and none of the
No,
nuclear
he said
sites
that
have
at
been
those
hit in
sites
this
that
round.
we had taken action to eliminate, where there are nuclear enrichment sites, that we had obliterated those sites. But they had continued to amass missile technology and missile inventory. They had continued, as had been declared, to pursue their intention of nuclear enrichment. They had continued.
Rubio said they weren't enriching.
They had continued their intention to pursue nuclear enrichment. They had said and declared that they were going to do that. Their programs had not been completely abolished, and their intention had not been abolished. They remained a threat, and the fact that we had the ability to intervene, that imminence is incredibly important. This standard of what is imminent. I mean, you.
Well, people want to know why. Why now? That's why I'm asking.
Because the opportunity is there to eliminate an imminent threat that is an imminent threat to the United States and our operations and in the area and our ally.
I want to ask you about another standoff between the Pentagon and Anthropic, which is the only AI company whose products are used in classified systems for things like target ID, intel assessments, and battlefield simulations. This morning, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that their AI was in fact used in these operations, even though Secretary Hegseth and Trump ordered it to be cut off due to this contractual dispute over the use of the model. Anthropic's CEO told CBS in an exclusive interview that it is up to Congress to act here, to really create clarity as to how AI can be used. It's clearly essential if the Pentagon's still using it in this operation. Will Congress act here?
I mean, this is something that they're going to have to deal with and come to Congress for. This is, obviously, in this particular circumstances, I'm unaware of this particular issue. This is going to have to be something that is going to have to be dealt with in more detail than obviously an interview on CBS.
Can I ask you, in that targeting of the Supreme Leader that Senator Cotton talked about, did the U.S. carry out that strike?
Well, I think this is very important. What's very clear here, and I think this is important to discuss, the President of the United States indicated that we were targeting the military infrastructure, and not the regime and not regime change. And yesterday, when I had the opportunity to talk to Secretary Rubio, I asked that question, and he was very clear in the answer that we did not target Khamenei, and we were not targeting the leadership in Iran. So the aspect of that the United States was not undertaking regime change is very important. Our aspect of what the President of the United States has undertaken was this imminent threat that he described in his announcement, and that I think his response and his statement to the United States is an important aspect.
But just to be clear, you're not saying that Israel carried out that strike without the U.S. permission, greenlighting, buy-in?
The fact that Khamenei has been a murderous authoritarian who has killed an unbelievable number of Israelis, they have an absolutely, I think, a strong basis in which to do so. And I think it certainly shows that if you're a murderous authoritarian and you're at risk, and it's better to be a friend of the United States than a murderous authoritarian. It's also interesting that Putin just said that he lost.
Speaking of murderous dictators,
that he lost a friend in losing Khamenei, and we certainly didn't see Khamenei as a friend.
We will leave it there. Congressman Turner, we'll be back in a moment with more Face the Nation.
A stalker sends menacing messages to a young mother before she's murdered.
They all just kind of said, I can't believe this happened. He did it.
The stalker did it.
There's a killer out there, and we're going to go after him.
But the investigation reveals a sinister setup.
I think his head is spinning, thinking about what else are they going to find.
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount+.
Why America's last best place is at risk.
If the public land that you use were sold off, could you run your business?
Go to the ends of the earth.
We'll hit the heights.
A great adventure together.
And reach for the stars.
Star power. I like it.
So cool.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking,
Something that's undeniable.
With mindfulness.
innovative,
Magical.
It's like being a child.
and truly original reporting.
God, you do your research.
I tell a good story.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
You both had talked about going on Survivor together.
Right.
A Survivor contestant believes his sister was murdered
I'm sorry that I couldn't protect you.
and is determined to be her voice.
This is her speaking to everyone saying, don't let this happen to you.
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount+.
It could be the greatest turnaround in college football history.
What is the magic here?
The undefeated Big Ten champs, Indiana Hoosiers.
A woman dies after her husband accidentally shoots her.
Everyone felt horrible for him.
Years later, surveillance evidence upends the case.
We were able to hear their last conversation together.
What really happened?
Didn't want to believe it, but when I heard it come from his own mouth, couldn't get past it.
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount.
We go now to Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz, who joins us from Austin. Good morning to you, Senator. I'm glad we got your audio working. You are from Houston, I believe, this morning.
I am. Good morning, Margaret.
Good morning. I wanted to ask you about Austin, though, because there are reports of 3 people dead, more than a dozen injured following a mass shooting in that city. The FBI is saying this morning that their Joint Terrorism Task Force has joined the investigation. Is there any nexus to terrorism or anything that is going on in regard to the worldwide caution at this moment?
We don't know for sure. That there are some early reports that this shooting may be connected to terrorism, but we need to follow the evidence and see in particular what motivated the shooting. We are certainly, Heidi and I are praying for those who were wounded and the families of those who were killed. But at this point, we don't know what the evidence will show in terms of whether this was an act of terrorism.
We'll continue to follow those early reports. But Senator, just looking at the global environment right now, CENTCOM announced 3 Americans were killed and 5 seriously wounded in this operation. President Trump and Vice President Vance campaigned on not getting America involved in new wars. What do you say to Americans this morning who are asking why we are in this conflict now?
President Trump's decision to launch this decisive action against Iran is the single most important decision of his presidency. I think he laid out powerfully and effectively why he is taking this action. He is taking this action because the government of Iran is a profound and malign influence. They have been the leading state sponsor of terrorism for 47 years. Mm-hmm. They have, over that time, killed nearly 1,000 Americans. They provide more than 90% of the funding for Hamas. They provide more than 90% of the funding for Hezbollah. The Iranian Ayatollah was, until yesterday, actively trying to murder the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. I spent the entire day with President Trump on Friday, right before he launched these attacks. He and I discussed this at length on Friday. My counsel to him was that the Iranian regime has never been weaker, that it was teetering, and now was the time. My advice was, do not miss this opportunity. I think the president has acted boldly, he's acted decisively, and Iran no longer being led by a theocratic, murderous dictator, that makes America much, much safer.
Senator, you are not going to find a lot of people in any way defending the supreme leader. That is for sure. However, putting Americans in harm's way is what I'm pressing you on here. Did the president explain to you why he called off active diplomacy? Because at the very same time he was on that plane, the vice president of the United States was talking to the Omani mediator who was trying to get a deal and told us that they were close to one. Why not choose diplomacy?
Because the diplomacy was an abject failure. The Iranians approached the diplomacy with arrogance, which with absolute hubris, they said they would not stop enriching. No matter what, they were going to continue to enrich uranium. They would not discuss zero enrichment. They claimed a right to enrich uranium in underground bunkers with no supervision. As President Trump said on Friday when he was with me in Texas, his line was zero enrichment, and the Iranians refused to discuss it. They also refused to discuss their proxies. They refused to discuss Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis. And President Trump understood that the Iranian, quote, negotiation was just a stall tactic, and that the only response, my advice to him, I said, there's only one deal you should accept, and it's the deal that you offered Maduro, which is if you want to leave and flee the country, you can do so. Anything else is unacceptable. And Khamenei made his choice.
Well, there's disputes there in terms of your characterization of what was actually on the table and what the administration had indicated it was willing to accept in terms of allowing enrichment for medical purposes and the like. But that's now obviously
so Margaret,
done.
What I just told you, what I just told you is almost word for word what Secretary of State Marco Rubio told me yesterday.
Can you tell us now if you believe that there was an ongoing nuclear weapons program? One of the top arms control experts out there, David Albright, has written there should be an immediate priority on rapid response operations to secure Iran's nuclear stockpiles right now. Can you assure the public that it will be secured? And if so, who is doing it if there are no Israeli or U.S. forces on the ground?
So there is no doubt that a year ago, Iran had an active and ongoing nuclear weapons program. We took out the vast majority of that at the end of the 12-day war. Where
that
Israel
U.S. intelligence assessment was not made public, if that is what was briefed to you.
We took out, we launched targeted bombs at the end of the 12-day war, where we dropped the equivalent of about a third of a nuclear weapon on those underground facilities like Fordo, which is built into the base of a mountain. The bunker buster bombs we used, Israel doesn't have those bombs. No other country has those bombs. We took them out last year. The Iranians were still hell-bent on rebuilding them. And one of the things we are doing right now is taking out their missiles, in particular, the southern missile belt. Right now, Iran is building roughly 100 missiles a month. They're actively building missiles to threaten their neighbors.
And they're firing some of them right now at their neighbors, at our allies.
They're illustrating powerfully. They're attacking virtually every Arab neighbor that surrounds them. They are firing missiles at. It's almost like they want to illustrate to the world just how malign they are.
But in terms of containing the risk, who's securing the nuclear material that you say still exists within Iran? Who's doing that?
Look, the quantity of nuclear material, I didn't say anything one way or another on that. What I said is they were building nuclear weapons a year ago, and our bombing took that out. They also had an ongoing desire to rebuild them. I don't have present-day intelligence on what progress they had made towards rebuilding nuclear weapons since we bombed their facilities. I have no indication that they were anywhere close to getting nuclear weapons because our bombing was devastating. And Margaret, that's one of the reasons I urged President Trump, now is the time. You know, dictatorships survive because they're perceived as invulnerable. And in this instance, Iran decisively lost the 12-day war. That weakened the regime and set up what the president is doing now.
Senator Ted Cruz, we have to leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us. We'll be right back with a lot more Face the Nation. Stay with us.
A stalker sends menacing messages to a young mother before she's murdered.
They all just kind of said, I can't believe this happened. He did it.
The stalker did it.
There's a killer out there, and we're going to go after him.
But the investigation reveals a sinister setup.
I think his head is spinning, thinking about what else are they going to find.
48 Hours, now streaming on CBS and Paramount+.
Why America's last best place is at risk.
If the public land that you use were sold off, could you run your business?
Go to the ends of the earth.
We'll hit the heights.
A great adventure together.
And reach for the stars.
Star power. I like it.
So cool.
But wait, there's more.
Experience thought-provoking,
Something that's undeniable.
With mindfulness.
innovative,
Magical.
It's like being a child.
and truly original reporting.
God, you do your research. I tell a good story.
Because there's always something new under the sun on CBS Sunday morning.
You both had talked about going on Survivor together.
Right.
A Survivor can